Hey folks, let's talk about cellular respiration. So as you can see from this picture, cellular respiration is the making of ATP. And what's neat is that we have learned that glucose gets converted into ATP energy, but food, such as proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, they get converted into glucose, and then that can get converted into ATP. So here is the chemical formula for the process. So oxygen is taken in by organisms, and glucose that they have taken in either through eating or because they've made it, such as with plants. They mix up and rearrange those atoms and then form carbon dioxide and then water and ATP energy. So go ahead and fill in the process of making ATP energy in your note sheet. And notice that we are converting macromolecules from food into ATP. Check out this picture off to the right. You can see that's the mitochondrial organelle. It's a bean-shaped organelle. And inside of all of these folds here, that's actually where the most of the process is happening. So most organisms are made up of eukaryotic cells, so the cellular respiration process happens in that mitochondrion inside of those cells. But in prokaryotic cells, there is no mitochondrion. So cellular respiration happens during or inside of the cytoplasm in the cell. All right, so remember we said that glucose is converted into ATP. Well, based on this analogy here, know that glucose is a really stable way of storing chemical energy. And then that gets converted into, let's say, gasoline or rocket fuel. And that's not as stable. So once ATP gets converted, or I should say when glucose is converted into ATP, that ATP can't be stored for long. It needs to be used up because it is dangerous to cells. All right, here is a picture of the process. It is quite complicated, as you can see, and there are multiple parts to the cellular respiration process. The first part is called glycolysis, and that produces a little bit of ATP, and the products of that actually go and start another process called the Krebs cycle, and then a little bit of ATP gets made there. And then those products of the Krebs cycle, they go on and they enter the electron transport chain, and a whole bunch of ATP energy gets made. So the point here is that it is a series of chemical reactions, and it's very complicated. So ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. The ATP comes from this name. And it is the only fuel that cells can use. We call it the energy currency of the cell. And here's its structure. Now, the energy in ATP is actually stored in these high energy bonds between the three phosphate groups. And I want you to think of ATP as a battery. So here we have a fully charged ATP molecule. And then this phosphate group gets broken off and energy gets released, and that's used by the cells. Then the ATP is no longer ATP, it's ADP for adenosine diphosphate. So it needs to get recharged so that the cells can use the energy again. So that happens in a separate chemical process, but then once it's recharged, then ATP is ready to be used again. So this process happens over and over and over again in cells, and the ATP batteries keep getting recharged. Here's another picture of that. So the ADP still stores energy, it's just not as powerful, and then the ATP molecule has a full amount of energy. So some other things to remember are that glucose is a super stable molecule, and that's how our cells store that energy. But then in order to use it, they have to quickly convert it to ATP and then use it right off. And ATP has a ton of energy storage, so it's a super efficient fuel. All right, our body uses ATP energy in many ways. So chemicals, molecules are constantly being built inside of your body and inside of your cells, and they're constantly being broken down as well. Well, in order to build those bonds or to break those bonds, ATP energy is often required. Anytime cells or parts of cells are moving, then that requires ATP energy. And then cells are constantly pumping substances, chemicals, into and out of the cell, and that requires energy as well. So here are a few examples. So right at the base of the sperm tail, there are a ton of mitochondria, and they are pumping out a ton of ATP energy to allow that tail to move for the long period that it has to. And then think of, your stomach is constantly churning through the process of peristalsis, and that requires a constant supply of energy. Your heart is constantly pumping, requires energy. And when you use your skeletal muscles, especially when you're exercising, that requires ATP as well. And like I said, there are these pumps in your cell membranes that are constantly working. Here is the mitochondrion organelle inside of a eukaryotic cell. And remember that both plants and animals have mitochondria. Plants are specialized in that they also have the chloroplast organelle to make glucose, and we're not that complex, so we have to actually eat plants or other organisms that eat plants in order to get our glucose. All right, a little bit more about cellular respiration. There are two types. So aerobic respiration is respiration that occurs when oxygen is available. It's very efficient and yields about 36 ATP for every glucose molecule that is converted. Then there's anaerobic respiration, which occurs when oxygen isn't present. And it's much less efficient. It only yields 2 ATP molecules per glucose. So in order to maintain our bodies, we have to carry out aerobic respiration in order to get enough ATP to run our cells. For a short period of time, however, we can carry out anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration will start when there is no oxygen available. And I shouldn't say it's also called fermentation, but it's very similar to fermentation. Anaerobic respiration and fermentation are very similar, slightly different chemically. Now, with alcoholic fermentation, 2 ATP molecules get produced per glucose, and then carbon dioxide, and also ethanol gets produced, so alcohol. And of course, we use this to make beer and wine and other food products. And then in some organisms, fermentation happens, for example, in us, in our muscles, when we run out of oxygen, then we make 2 ATP per glucose, carbon dioxide, and then lactic acid. So lactic acid fermentation is what this is called. And that lactic acid builds up in your muscles, and that's what makes you sore after you exercise for a long period. All right, so we mentioned alcoholic fermentation occurs in bacteria and in yeast organisms, and we use this to our advantage, and we bake wonderful, fluffy bread that has big, giant air holes made by carbon dioxide, and beer and wine are also made in that same process. And, like we said, lactic acid fermentation occurs in the muscle cells of animals. Nice little trick is when you have lactic acid buildup and your muscles hurt, especially in your legs, then let gravity move the lactic acid to your stomach, and then it can metabolize it more quickly and get it out of your body. So you need to stretch a whole lot. You need to drink a ton of water, and then you can also even put your feet up in the air like you're doing a shoulder stand or putting your feet up on a wall and letting that lactic acid move down towards your stomach. Okay, now the very last thing here is that cellular respiration and photosynthesis are interdependent. One of them is required for the other one. So here you'll notice that photosynthesis, the reactants are carbon dioxide and water, and then the products are glucose and oxygen. Well, the products of photosynthesis are what are required to carry out cellular respiration. Glucose and oxygen are the reactants of cellular respiration, and then the products of cellular respiration, carbon dioxide and water, just happen to be the reactants of photosynthesis. So another thing to remember is that all organisms carry out cellular respiration, but only autotrophs carry out photosynthesis. So that would be plants, some protists, and some bacteria. I hope you've learned a lot about cellular respiration, and now let's practice more in class.